Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Hip Senior Podcast. My name is Marianne Bailey, and I will be your host today. Our guest is Turner Grant. He is the author of To Venus and Back, One Man's Quest to Rediscover Love. Turner, welcome to the podcast.
Marianne, thank you so much. It's great to be with you.
It's great to have you here. So today, Turner and I are going to talk about dating and apps. I don't know, maybe Tinder, since I just signed up. I'm really newly single, and I had talked to Turner for a while, and he did this whole thing with dating and apps and starting over his life. And that's what I'm going through at this moment. And truthfully, I spent my entire evening yesterday left swiping. So, Turner, maybe we can, as older people, maybe we can get some tips and tricks and discover a little bit of insight from you about what that's all about.
How much insight you get from me, I don't know. I can certainly share my experience. And from that, you may be able to sift a little bit of insight. As I discovered, so just again, a little background. My wife passed away after 20 years of marriage. And after 2 years of grieving and stabilizing my family with my children, I was encouraged to find my future. And
No, you were not encouraged. You were dragged into it screaming and kicking.
I was encouraged to find my future, perhaps with a woman by my mother-in-law, but I was
Right.
dragged kicking and screaming into the online dating world. Yes. Most of all by a mom, a neighbor, who is also a professional lobbyist on Capitol Hill, whose job is to get people to see things her way. She was the one that dragged me, twisted my arm into online dating. And there's such a sort of promise with online dating because it's so accessible that they're right there. All you have to do is just take that small leap, download the app, pay a little bit, or most of them have a free service. And it's that easy to find a partner in the future and love. And it's not.
No, it's not. And you know what? You mentioned free services. Just so if some of y'all are out there looking for love and you haven't considered online dating, I keep thinking that I'm going to, and I'll digress in just a second, but I keep thinking that I'm going to be shopping and I want to do it organically, right? I want to be reaching for a bunch of bananas. Somebody else reaches for the same bunch of bananas, or eyes lock, and we fall madly in love. But the problem with that is that I have my groceries delivered. That scenario is not going to happen anytime soon. I've discovered that. Mentioned to my neighbor, I said, I might start dating again. He says, how are you going to do that? You have to leave your home for that to happen. So you're exactly right.
Maybe you've just stumbled upon a new app, and that is delivery of your. Although that's also called stalking and other names. Maybe that won't work, but interesting concept there.
I don't think that will work. But you mentioned that there were free versions of dating apps. And let's cover that just for a minute, guys, because there are ones like Bumble, which the girl has to reach out to the guy first. There's Match. By the way, I belong to some groups and I won't mention the names because anyway, women talk about stuff. And I went on one of the groups and I asked, hey, which apps are you guys using if you're 50 and over? This was just yesterday. Which apps are you guys using? Which apps are you seeing the most success from? And they told me that Bumble and Match are almost dead in the water these days.
Really? Bumble is dead in the water because that was hot like a year ago.
Yeah. They said there's not that many people on them. So I don't know if they meant like there's not that many 50 and up year old people, or if they just said there's not that many people on there. So I don't know if it's the younger people, but I don't think, because to really get the true effect of these apps, you really have to pay for at least a month or two of them, because if not, you don't see who likes you and different stuff like that, especially like with Bumble, the woman reaching out first. So they put limitations on who you can find doing that.
And you're right. When I did it, which at this point started 10 years ago, it was still a little bit early and a little bit Wild West, although Match was there. The free services were actually pretty robust. Now I think the free services are pretty minimal to
Yeah.
very little at
It's
all.
like
And you,
anything. They had to get their name out there and now they're like clamping down going, okay, we need to make some money.
they got you. They got you.
That's how the world turns, right? We all have to make
Yes.
money.
And I first learned about Tinder in an article in the Wall Street Journal, of all places, because it was all about the money. It had
Right.
become hugely successful. And that was my introduction to Tinder.
Now, so that you guys know about that, Tinder was the site that everybody said, hey, if you're looking for somebody 50 and above, Tinder's where you want to be looking at, which is surprising that they said that to me because I have a 25-year-old daughter who, by the way, is engaged. So she's not out on
Congratulations.
any, thanks. She's not out on any, that's new, but she's not out on any apps, whatever. If you talk to my 25-year-old, yeah, Tinder's for hooking up.
Exactly. My 20-year-old caught me 10 years ago and went, "Ooh, Dad, that's gross. Please get away."
Yeah, exactly. But I know many people who have told me over the years, I met my now husband on Tinder.
Oh, wow.
Oh, so you hooked up and then I don't know all that stuff as far as, and I'm not here to judge what you do with your dating life at all. I'm just telling you what these people told me. They said, if you're looking for 50 and above, Tinder is the way to go now. So I'm,
And
that's interesting. Okay. I'm going to sign up for Tinder. And I did yesterday. I swiped left a lot. Like my left thumb is so sore today. It's ridiculous. So that's the case. Then there's things like Plenty of Fish. They have a free option. And what else is out there, Turner? Plenty of
there is,
Sugar, Bumble,
OkCupid. OkCupid may be past
okay,
and gone
Cupid.
and over with. I don't know. And then there are specific ones. There's like JDate if you're Jewish. There have to be 50 apps out there now, whereas 10 years ago, there were maybe 4 or 5 that you used.
Yeah, and then there's like and then there's like our time for older people as well,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But then
Silver
there's like,
singles. That's one.
there's a bunch of niche ones too. It doesn't take much to put together a dating app, by the way. There's all kinds of programs that you can do this with. So people have come up with ones for like rich doctors that are looking for love and all different kinds of stuff like this. But if you're just starting out, start with the basic ones and see what that brings. There might be some different areas across the US that the men behave differently. I asked
Well,
one guy what he did for a living. He blocked me. I'm like,
oh my gosh.
I wasn't money grubbing. I was just curious, like how he spends most of his time. But I had the feeling like he wasn't on the up and up.
Well, I can tell you here in the Washington, D.C. area, from what I hear from women friends, Bumble and Tinder and Match seem to be the top 3
Okay. So
for
match,
the
through
over for
match
the
in there.
over
Have you
50
asked lately?
the over 50 age group. Yes, I actually have one very good friend, a fellow architect. She's actually in the book To Venus and Back. Her name is Abby. She is back out on the dating scene and she uses those 3, Match, and she seems to have more success with Match. That has always been a favorite of hers.
Right.
And she doesn't care too much for Tinder or any of the others. So for her, Match has been successful.
The weird thing I found was that if you sign up for 3 of them, you basically see the same people on all 3 apps.
Exactly. It's the strangest thing to
So
see
don't
people.
pay for 3 services because you're going to be disappointed and waste your money. Pay for
I,
one of them because you're going to find the same people on there.
not to mention the amount of time management that is required to manage 3 different dating apps.
So if you're just starting out, start with one.
Agreed. Yes, I agree. You're dipping your toes in the water and you will quickly find that those waters are not puddles. It's deep water and you will get pulled in. So definitely stick with one. I heartily agree with that.
So what was the first one you signed up for?
The one I signed up with was eHarmony. That was the big one 10 years ago. And they had both the free service and the paid, but you got nothing with the free. And eHarmony, and it's interesting, if you look at each one, they all come at it at a different angle. And that's what they advertised. eHarmony then, and I assume it's still out there, but I don't hear its name mentioned, touted itself as a matchmaker.
Right.
And what they did was they asked you a zillion questions. And I remember being assured, felt like these people know what they're doing by going through all these questions. they're really taking this seriously. And then after you answer all the questions that you ask, and then you do your profile and photos and that kind of thing, they only show you matches that rhythmically, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Match you. So it's a matchmaker. You're not able to see everybody out there, which like Match.com and Tinder and all those, they can throw you into, you see everybody, although you have some filters. But eHarmony was a matchmaker. And I thought it worked probably better than most, but that's its concept. Okay, Cupid was they had different questions, and they would give you everybody who matched the filters that you set, whether it was distance, age, ethnicity, religion, income, whatever, interest. And then they would pop up as a possibility, and they would give you a percentage compatibility. So anything below 90, I tended to ignore. Anything above 90, I tended to maybe pursue.
Right.
So those were two concepts. And then Tinder came along. And there's some basic filters, but not much. You can be up and running on Tinder in 2 minutes if you want to be. And it just throws you out there. It's you get everybody. Now that was my biggest criticism of Match.com was it felt like being thrown out into the proverbial meat market. Everybody got on there, and you didn't want to see everybody. And there were no filters at the time. I used it for the free service. Probably with the paid service, you get to filter this down a bit, so you don't feel like everything's coming at you at one time. So they all have a little bit different take on it. Of course, Bumble, the women makes the first move. So there's a sense of control and hopefully security because let's be honest, it's a dangerous world out there.
I don't think there's much security in that. You can say hi to a maniac just as well as you can say hi to as well adjusted.
Okay. I never used Bumble. Yes,
No,
well
anybody can put
said.
together a decent profile. My thing is that I want someone to say hi to me first, but I want someone to say more than hi to me. I want
I've
someone
heard
to be
that
a
a
little bit
million
more
times.
creative.
I've heard that a million times from women.
Yeah.
It just said hi. And
Hi,
okay,
and the conversation ends there.
and they say that was just really brilliant of him, wasn't it?
To me, it's okay. Did you read my profile? Did you see I have a dog? Anything like, hey, cute dog. Is it a purebred? Or, hey, I like the color of your hair, or I like the color of your eyes, or whatever. It gives that next person something to feedback on. Hey, they read my profile. They looked at my pictures.
So pictures, I have a question for you, Marianne, and I don't know if it's still happening. So again, 10 years ago is like last century in online dating, but I would see women who they were called glam photos. They got a professional photographer to take them out in certain settings and took very posed, perfectly lighted. And I typically deleted them instantly because I knew that they were staged and I just wanted real pictures of people. Do you know if women are still doing that, and do you see that of guys? I don't for some reason, I don't think guys are doing it, but you tell me.
I probably saw 100 guys last night, if not more. And I think only a few of them. One guy's like walking along with his briefcase holding an umbrella. And you could tell that one was staged, right?
Okay.
But there was only very minimum out of there. The problem with guys, and I'll tell you why I say this in a minute, is that guys, if you're listening to this, women, if you have guy friends, just hear me out on this. Guys take the worst pictures of themselves that they think women want to see. Like, for instance, taking a picture from down below, looking up. We do not want to see nose hairs. Okay. Just putting this out there. Since this is my podcast, I can say these things.
Yes, you can.
We don't want to see the nose hairs. This is not something that we want to see. We do not want to see below the waist pictures.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff is ridiculous, and it's not going to get you a high quality woman. And women, if you're taking pictures that are nasty like that as well, it's not going to get you a high quality guy. It might get you something for an evening, but I actually switched over to, I went in Tinder last night and where it says, show me men, show me women, show me everything. I was texting with a girlfriend of mine that she's married, she's got 2 kids, and I told her I signed up for Tinder and she's like, no, you did not. And I'm like, yes, I did. And I'm like, I'm just curious. And I've been on other dating apps because I've had seniors that have started dating again that said, could you show me how to use this app? Or could you
Right.
show me how to use this
Right.
website? So I'm familiar with most of them that we've talked about, right? Because I've had people say, I want to try this out. Could you show me how? And for you, those of you that don't know, I taught seniors how to use technology for 20 years. So that's where that picture comes into play. And so I switched over to everything. Show me everything because I've talked to guys throughout the years that have said, if you think finding men is hard, the women are just as bad. And I said, no, surely
Yeah,
not. So I
they
switched over to
are.
everything and it's true. Some of the pictures
I'm glad to hear
last
you say that. Oh, I'm so glad to hear you say
yeah.
that.
Hey, I'll call it as I see it. Some of the pictures last night that I saw from females marketing, selling themselves. I don't know what they were doing, but that was bad. Just very sexual, very half naked, very interesting poses. I'm just like, what are we doing?
Interesting poses. Okay, we'll let that go. We won't dive into that anymore.
Yeah.
I remember I have a married friend, and she was interested in this after reading my book, and so I created just a fake Tinder account just so she could see. She wanted to see what the women look like. She didn't want to see the men. She wanted to see the women. She was
Right.
fascinated by it. And after just flipping through a bunch, and we did this a couple times at lunch a few times, and she was stunned that the women would, as you said, market themselves like this. Of course, there were the proverbial boob shots, which indicated exactly what they were looking for. But she was also stunned at the bad photos. Guys, now I'm an architect, so the photos I put in for my profiles were pictures taken of me. None of them I took myself. And so I have a little bit of an aesthetic bent that these pictures have to be a certain way. But I do know from women friends who are dating and they show me the guy pictures, yeah, you're right. They're pretty awful.
They are. Another thing women don't want to see, guys, is pictures of you that you take in a public bathroom in the mirror. We don't need to
Really?
see a toilet stall behind you or the hand dryers or yeah, why are men taking pictures in bathrooms, period? Especially at your home where there's obviously women products on the counter as well.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or in their bedroom, and their bedroom's just a nightmare. And you're like, you couldn't have found a better place to take a picture of yourself. And some of these pictures, blurry pictures, pictures of half of them as their main picture,
So
just
a
weird
question for
pictures.
you. A
Another
question
thing
for
is your children in these pictures. Don't do that
well,
either.
that's a definite no. But
But
a question
it's becoming more common and it's concerning.
that's interesting. I think I know why they're doing it. We can talk about that. But I have a question for you. A common complaint. In fact, I remember over the last few years or when I was doing it, I would see or someone pointed out, I'd seen on Facebook, a guy would put a sign up, clearly it was from a dating app, and it said to women, don't show me pictures with you and your friends because they can't figure out who you are. That seemed to be something women would do. I don't know if guys do it. You can tell me if you see it. Guys with a bunch of friends and you're not quite sure. So who's the person here?
Make your first picture you. You and your dog, if you have to have somebody in the picture. But be very clear who we're dating. Are we dating the dog? Or are we dating the guy? But and then your other pictures can have pictures with your friends. But you're right. I saw pictures last night where every picture on this guy's profile was him and a bunch of guys. And I'm like, well, which one are you? Yeah.
I think they're showing, I think on both sides, they're showing that, hey, I have a fun life. Come join me in my fun life. And these
Sure.
are
But
my
not
friends.
your main picture. Not your
Right.
main
I agree. I agree. Maybe I think the pictures are the first filter of all. If someone can't even put a decent picture out there, I think that's a swipe left pretty much pretty quickly. Would you
I do.
agree?
I do. Because if you can't put your first picture as you, I'm going to assume you're married.
So that's always the big, okay, that's the rap. And I think there's a lot of truth to it for
Yeah.
women about men is that they're married looking for something on the side. Is that what goes through women's minds?
What's what goes through my mind. If you can't be forthright with your pictures and your first picture is a mountain or a dog or whatever left, because I don't care how good looking you are or whatever. If you're looking for a side piece on a dating app, it's an instant no. Now, I'm sure there are women that are married and they're looking for a side piece. And this is just generalizing, guys. I'm not pointing anybody out. I'm not, but I am pointing out this behavior that there are a lot of open relationships, a lot of married people and stuff, and they claim that their spouse knows that they're on there and stuff like that. They're just instant lefts because that's not what I'm looking for. But yeah, if your first picture can't be just you, and like I said, without the nose hairs, without the below the waist part of the photo, for me, I have some funny things. Like I've never had any luck with Virgo men dating wise.
Oh, so astrology is important for you.
So I don't go around asking everybody like, what is your sign? But I do know that two of my serious relationships in my life, I've had three really serious ones. Two of them were Virgos and they were not good relationships. One I was married
Right,
for
so
20 years and one I dated for 7 years and he was abusive.
okay, so they are labeled as Virgo, so it sounds like it's important.
Those are,
It's consideration.
yeah.
I will share with you, if I may, that
Yeah.
if women find too often worry about finding men who are married, who are trying to find something outside, what men encounter on all these websites, going back to when I was doing it 10 years ago, were hookers, left and right. Any way that a hooker can get to a guy, they will, and the dating apps are there. I would say on Tinder,
I never considered
a
that.
about I would say about 5% are hookers, and they make it very clear because there are filters on Tinder that don't allow you to put emails or phone numbers. So they figured out how to beat the automatic review algorithms, and they put in these cryptic contact either on chat. I've never contacted them, so I don't know, but you see these
I
cryptic.
saw one last night that had this
See,
guy's
they're
phone number.
trying to beat the filter.
Yeah.
So on eHarmony, not so much on Match, but Tinder is a real big hooker hangout.
Wow. I wonder if that guy that had his phone number in there, if he was a hooker.
I think
No,
they still called gigolos, or I don't
don't
know.
know. I don't know all these things. I was
But
married
Tinder,
for 20 years. I get it.
5% of women on Tinder are hookers.
5%?
I'd say about 5%. Yeah.
Okay.
And they make it pretty clear. And because if you're 50 something and you're looking for people your age and all of a sudden 20 something or 30 something pops up, you don't even have to go any further. And now they're half exposed, it's a hooker. So it's just, and they usually say something cute. I like older men. Yeah, because they have money. I don't know.
So the other thing that that I am a little biased against, I don't know, is people that hold up fishes in their profile pictures. And it took me forever to correlate Plenty of Fish app with
Oh
why
my.
these people were holding up fishes.
Do you know why? I think they're proud of the fish they got.
Yeah, but I think it came down to, oh, the app is named Plenty of Fish. So therefore, we're going to hold up fish.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing.
No, you're fine.
I'm almost staring up here. I'm laughing. So silly.
So
God.
that's something else. If you're holding up fish, I'm probably swiping left. People named David, they get an instant left usually. I'm sorry.
Why?
My ex. I just
Oh,
can't imagine spending the rest of my life with a David.
okay. There's background there for
And
that.
I'm
But
sure I'm not the only woman that feels that way.
well, I certainly couldn't. I didn't think I could meet or date or get to know anyone who, and I won't say my wife's name, but that had her name. That just wouldn't work. So
See?
I get that part.
Yeah. And then people that put their children in their pictures, it's your children did not consent to be on a dating app at the age of 5 or 3 or 20 or whatever. Did you go to your children and say, hey, I'm going to start dating and I'm putting your picture on here? I get that you want to show that you're like a family man and this and that, and whatever, but that's just not for me. I just believe There's limits of posting pictures of children out there, that it's gotten out of hand a bit, whether it's Facebook or TikTok or whatever, but especially dating apps.
That's interesting. I ran into that very seldom. People just simply put that in their dating profile, parent, 2 kids, ages, and that was it. I never really came across people putting, so that's a more recent phenomenon, I guess.
And then, like, last night, one of them that I saw was this guy. You could tell clearly that he was different than the person that was on the first picture. The first picture looked like one of his sons driving a boat. And I'm like, that guy's not 56. And then the next picture was him and two other of his children. And I was just like, yeah, no. Did you even ask them? Yeah.
That's a filter right there. If people are gonna do that's a filter right there.
When you
People
say filter,
talking
do you
about
mean like red flag?
yeah, red flag, gone by, swipe left,
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah.
If they can't get if they don't have the sensibility for putting a picture that is good of them, that would appeal to someone else, if they're not thinking about the other person that they're trying to appeal to, for me, admittedly, I'm a little picky because I'm an architect. If they don't have that basic sensibility, then we're not gonna get along. We're just
My pictures are, I'm like, after looking at these pictures last night, I showed my friend that I was chatting with. I said, I took a screenshot of mine. I said, here are mine. And she goes, those are cute. And I said, thanks. And I said, but compared to all these other women that I'm seeing on here, they're extremely boring. They're just, you know,
that's interesting.
decent pictures.
Can we talk about age a little bit?
Yeah.
Because one thing that I ran into too often was women lying about their ages.
So do men.
Okay, so that's equal. Okay.
Yeah.
What they said in their defense, I would meet them and then they would fess up. They said, my friend said that men are only looking for younger women, so I couldn't give my real age. What's the defense from men for lying about their age?
Usually they don't. They're like,
Whatever.
really? Usually you see men that are like, oh, I don't know how that age got put in there. I didn't do that. The app screwed up.
But most of the apps require your birthday. So it's not, oh, my fat thumb just hit 4 instead of
Right.
5.
How do you
You
not know your birthday?
birthday. Yes, that's yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay. Well,
So
that's an equal thing on both sides.
it is. What else did you find that was weird about dating apps, or what was good about all this
What
bad
was
stuff?
good what I thought was fascinating, again, as background, I am an architect, but I ran for Congress. I discovered that even though I'm not a really political person, I ran because of I have a disabled son, and there were disabled educational issues that pushed me to run. And I learned, even though I'm a shy guy, I learned I loved meeting new people. And the one thing that all the dating apps allowed me to do was to meet some truly fascinating and interesting women that I would have never met before. And I love learning about their lives. I love learning about how they got to where they were. And some of these stories were just remarkable. There's one woman whose story I share into Venus and Back. She was born in a Middle Eastern country, but when she approached her 20s, her country was engulfed in civil war, and she literally walked out of her country over mountains through 2 countries to get out and come to the US. I was just stunned and in awe of this woman's story. So for me, just generally, one of the big pluses
Sounds
was
kind of like the sound of music.
I would ever but it wasn't she didn't have the bond she did it alone. She didn't have the children and the husband but meeting new people that I would never meet, fascinating and accomplished people, even the ones that clearly, there was no chemistry. I enjoyed that aspect. Have you found that to be the case for you?
I haven't gone out on dates with anybody this time around. I
Okay.
know in the past, the people that I have met haven't fascinated me, but I live in an area that's more blue collar. And I was thinking about that the other day, about the type of people that I'm looking for. And you have to be, some people are like, I just don't want to be alone the rest of my life. And I really don't care who I'm with, as long as I'm not paying my bills and sleeping by myself every night. For me, I've decided that I really want somebody that is more educated, that is involved with technology. I don't want to get involved with someone that has no clue. When I talk about tech stuff, they're like glazed over because they're bored with what I'm doing for a career and what I'm developing in the tech world and stuff. And I think part of that is figuring out, okay, am I going to only date people that I would really consider as future material? This is what they do for a living. We would have the same commonalities. Or am I going to date a wide range of people? And some of them I know probably don't have much prospect, but they would be a good time to go out to dinner with.
See, you raise an interesting point because when I started out, again, was widowed 2 years before, trying to move ahead in my life. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I just do I have a must-have list, or do I just move forward? Whoever popped up and seemed interesting, I would meet. I didn't know which direction to go, so it's pretty wide
That
open.
changed. That changed though, right?
It did change,
Yeah.
because I learned about me, where I was in life, what appealed to me. I will say that where you live versus where I live here in Washington, D.C. area, Washington's a very international city. It's not blue collar, it's a white collar, and a lot of accomplished people, fascinating people are on their own. But
Exactly.
it did narrow down. As you meet people, you'll start to learn about yourself. What appeals to you, what feels right, what feels wrong, what makes you want to run as fast as you can.
Because in your
uh,
case, I read the book. You met people that were not overly concerned about the fact that you had children as far as making them a priority in your life. Oh, but your children are out of the house. Why are you bothering with them? And that your children still are very much a priority in your life. And so those
yes.
people were not serious contenders for your heart in the future because they had to understand that this was a big part of you.
They That's true. Most of the women, gosh, maybe 90% of the women I met had children, so they were parents. I thought there was a common understanding, and I think that was mostly true until the one that developed into a one-year relationship into Venus and back. My Even though we both had parenting responsibilities and scheduling issues, she was divorced. It seemed to be my parent obligations were more of a problem than hers. I thought there was a bit of a double standard. But from the get-go, I think, yeah, most of the women I met were parents, and that was one of the things we had in common, could talk about and bonded about, how we handled our parenting responsibilities. Now that was pretty different. And depending on the age of the children, that was very different. There was one, I'll call it a dating interview because it never got past the date interview. It was a woman who was significantly younger. She was in her early 40s. I was in my early 50s. And it became very clear very fast. I wasn't there for a compatible mate interview. I was there for a daddy interview. And she finally came out and said straight up, look, I adopted a 4-year-old child and I'm not necessarily looking for a romantic relationship. I'm looking for a father figure for my son.
Okay.
Straight up. So I don't know if you'll run into anything like that, but he
But,
was looking for a dad.
she wasn't honest about it to begin with, but eventually she said it. Thank goodness, instead of being like 5 years down the road, being like, "Hey, by the way, I only married you because I needed a father for my kid."
That's true. Now I have to share and fess up that, and I do share this into Venus and back, that, and this took place over a period of time where I had twin boys. One was disabled in a school in Massachusetts, but my other son started high school the year my wife passed away. And then 2 years later, I started dating, and then 2 years after that, he was ready to go to college. And it dawned on me, I was in this one-year relationship. It hit me as I was thinking about how to progress this relationship forward. She had younger children, and my son was about to go to college, and I was an empty nester. I realized I did not want to be in the parenting business anymore. And it was like a 2 by 4 just hit me across the head. And all of a sudden, I didn't necessarily want to be involved with women who had school-aged children because I had just reached this milestone in life, my son's life and my life. And so that change occurred during the middle of it. So I changed as well. And so that comes into play too.
And that's something that I've had to acknowledge in myself too. We were talking about what is it that you're looking at? Are you looking for a date? Are you looking for a partnership or a relationship or marriage? Figure out before you get into any kind of serious relationship, what it is that your heart really wants. Don't settle for things just because that's the first guy that reached out to you that sounded halfway decent. But I have been seriously I was on the fence and now I am on this side of the fence of knowing that, okay, I chose to have one child. She's now 25. She's getting married, maybe grandchildren down the road, maybe not, who knows? But do I want to get involved with somebody that has teenagers or young children? For
Right.
me, the answer is no. It's like, I've done my job. I grew my child. I
Yeah.
I raised her. She's adulting very well, and do I wanna start over and be a stepmom? No. If somebody has grown children, or even if they were already, like, in college, that might be a different story.
Sure. Sure.
But and I'm not trying to be selfish or I just know where my heart is. My heart is right now is growing my business and possibly having a relationship that will allow me to do that. The other thing is finding compatible people that if you have a brain and not being intimidated. I know a lot of men that are intimidated by women that have brains.
I have heard that comment before, and I will share, I maybe on the other side of that line. My wife was 10 years older. She was a very accomplished executive at Hewlett Packard. And one thing that I was clearly attracted to was accomplished women. So that was not an issue for me per se. I will say you sound like you are much further ahead of the curve where you are in life than where I was then as a widow because I really had no idea what I wanted. All I knew was I needed to try to move forward in my life into a future that I didn't know what it was going to be. And I think maybe that wasn't fair to the women I met and went out with because I didn't know. But it's where I was, and there was no way I was going to know until I started moving forward and experiencing these experiences and meeting people, trying to figure it out. So you're in a better spot than I think I was then.
I've had a lot of I got divorced and then I was in a relationship with somebody for 10 years that wasn't it just isn't when we split up, it wasn't any further than when we started.
Oh,
So
wow.
it gave and we didn't live together. So it allotted me a lot of alone time to think about, what do I want to fill this time with as I move forward in life? I also, when I got divorced, I put myself in therapy because I wanted to be healthy moving forward and not dragging my heavy luggage around. I also started doing a lot of journaling and figuring out who I am as a human being and where I want to go with stuff. So I encourage women and men both if you're recently divorced or your spouse or partner passed away, anything like that to find yourself first and figure out who am I as a person and what do I want my future to look like? Do I want to just like date people randomly? Do I want to hook up with people? Do I want a serious relationship or do I want to spend the next 5 years developing myself and figuring out who I am to be fair to people that I get involved with? Like you said, you might not have been fair to a few of the people that you were going out with because you weren't quite sure where you wanted to be yet.
I will say that any of the answers you just gave that people might come up with are okay answers. Just try to know, even if it's just
Yeah.
for me, I guess if I was asked at the time or if anyone was observing, I was just trying to have a nice evening with an enjoyable woman to meet.
And that's
Wasn't
perfectly
any
okay.
Yeah, and it wasn't any more than that. So if
Right.
it that is an okay answer, whatever your answer is, and if you're able to figure out what you want, then kudos to you all. I Again, I just was not in a position to do that, and I think anyone who's experienced a traumatic loss through death, and mine was totally unexpected,
Sure.
you don't know which way is up. So, all to say that can you make online dating fit all of the different circumstances that people who come into it come in with? I don't know, but you have to admit it's a fascinating social experiment, online dating. There they are. There's a person in a picture. And in many cases, they're telling you an awful lot of really personal stuff. Some of these, and Tinder doesn't, and I don't know about Bumble, but the early ones like eHarmony and OkCupid asked you a lot of personal questions that would then the questions and answers would be revealed to someone you were matched with, only if they answered the same questions. And it blew me away what really personal and sometimes intimate information a woman whose picture I was looking at would share to a stranger online. I think that may be missing from the current dating apps. I don't know. You would know better than I, but I knew eHarmony and OkCupid specifically asked a lot of questions that would be shared. The answers would be shared with the potential match.
I think Tinder has added some elements to that. I still don't think they're not, definitely not going its algorithm. There's also Facebook dating now as well.
I heard they tried to do it. I don't know how that's going. It's never popped up on my radar screen.
And yeah, the interesting thing is that it'll tell you, do you have people in common? So then you can
Well, no,
reach out to
Tinder
this.
had that feature. Do you know if it still has that feature? Tinder had that feature. You could activate to share Facebook friends, and and if the other person did the same, it would show you if you had anyone in common. I remember that because a couple of times we did have people in common, and it gave some reassurance to the woman. I knew this person, and they knew this person. Okay, so he must be. I've noted before, especially into Venus and Back, that guys have to work their way out of a hole of being the proverbial snake under a rock, cheating scumbag, and potential serial killer. If a woman sees that you have a friend in common, it allays their concerns. But I
Right.
also found it to be a very creepy thing, and I turned it off pretty quickly.
So I do know that Tinder has this thing where you can verify your photo. So it may,
Ah,
I think it'll pull up a thing where you have to take your picture when it tells you to, and it verifies it against your photos that you have already up there.
okay,
So
that's a new feature that
yeah,
wasn't there years
they'll
ago.
do that. They have this explore option where it says, welcome to explore. And it says my vibe. And it says looking for love, free tonight. That's a, just so you know, that's a hookup. If not necessarily, right? Maybe I just want to go out to dinner with
Not
somebody and I
necessarily.
happen to be free tonight and I'm feeling like I want to go out. Okay,
Maybe
that's
you have 2 theater tickets to the Washington Ballet, and you just want something to go with.
and your
To go
daughter
to
got called into work and now you're yeah. So now let's be friends, coffee date, music mode. So think that's like that's through Spotify. I think that's sharing what music you're currently like listening to. And then it has ones like it says for you recommendations based on your profile and it has like date night, binge watchers. The
Wow.
layout's not really great. W and then watchers. They need some work on this app. But I can recommend some people that do this, guys. Creative, sporty, music lovers, wanderlust, animal parents, stuff like that.
So
So
those are categories you can tap on that become part of your likes profiles.
no, what I think these are is like, oh, I really want to date somebody that loves pets. And so I
Right.
can click on animal parents and now it's going to show me people that have pets in their profile.
I see. Okay. Well,
With
that's a
them.
good filter. That's a good filter. It can be interesting.
I think they need to improve. I think it's like some people don't like dating people that have tattoos, so they need to have like filters. I don't want to date someone with tattoos, or I don't want to date a Republican or a Democrat, or
Oh, politics. Oh, we didn't talk about that. Oh, politics has become huge on dating apps. Yeah, for whichever side that'll be, it's usually, it may not be the first thing in the profile, but it's prominent in the profile. Have you seen that
I have
from
not. I
looking at
have
it?
not.
The women are very clear about that,
But
especially in this.
is the app like asking them to clarify whether or
No,
not
they
they just
put
want to
that in
date?
their profile. They put
I
it in.
now I have seen men like if you're a Trump lover, swipe left, or women. Like I said, I just switched on everyone yesterday, so I've only seen like a couple of women's things. I'm not bisexual or a lesbian or anything. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just like I said for this interview today, I wanted to check out what both sides of the story were going on, so I was a little bit more
That's
up on
interesting.
it.
I've never really been able to check out what guys put on theirs. I just hear comments from women over the years about what they
Definitely
see
because I
on guys'
switched to
profile.
I'm looking for everyone, and
Yeah.
it gave me that. I don't think it's marketing me to women at this point. Maybe it is. I don't know. But I
Mm,
do know my ex-boyfriend of 10 years said, after the way I treated you, if you switch teams, I would not blame you.
wow.
Just putting that out there. Like I said, no matter what kind of person you're looking for, or what your expectations are, whether I want someone that is great with kids, I want somebody that's, loves animals because I'm not going to get rid of. I've had people, I've known people that have gotten rid of their pets because the person they were dating did not like pets. That's
Yeah,
probably not a great choice.
no, because that's changing who you are.
Yeah. Figure
I
that
will,
out before you get committed into a relationship. That's all I have to
right.
say about that one.
I want to mention one thing, and I don't know that you ever felt this way, but I know I felt this way, and others who are later in life who are approaching this for the first time. I felt like that doing online dating was tantamount to unleashing the unknown forces of doom or the universe, and I was gonna get swept up in something I could not control. I was very fearful, just simply put, I feared what this would do, what would happen, and it wasn't just meeting strangers, I realized, it was also the fact that I was fearful that people I knew would see me on the dating apps. So I came into it with a lot of trepidation, and others may feel that same way.
I went through at least 100 people last night just so everybody was I swiped left. Very few people I swiped right on, maybe 5%, maybe 5 out of 100. And out of that 100 people, I knew none of them.
I never came across anyone that I knew, but I have a very good friend who just went through a divorce, and she was sharing with me her experiences on Bumble. And someone from church popped up who she wasn't terribly fond of, even as a church member. And he immediately reached out, "Oh, I didn't know you and so had split up," and so forth. And that was a very uncomfortable moment for her.
There's also blocking. I saw on Tinder that they made it pretty easy to block a person. If I came across a person that I didn't want to know, like a business associate or something like that, and I didn't want them knowing I was on Tinder or something like that, I would probably go in there and if I saw
But
them first before they reached out to me, I'd probably block them.
that's the thing, you have to see them first.
Right.
If they already saw you, then you block them, then you go in the office and they go, "Hey, Marianne, saw you on Tinder, didn't know you were back out there."
Yeah,
And
I'm
then
hooking up every
you
night, buddy. What do you think?
Yeah.
No, I'm not, guys. I'm not. But yeah, so we're running out of time, I know. So we're going to wrap this up. But hey, guys, if you're listening to this, send in questions. Email me, Marianne at thehipsenior.com. I'll put it in the comment section. Send me questions that maybe you want answered by Turner and I, and maybe we'll just play this by ear and see what kind of questions that you guys are curious about for online dating. And like I said, that's just one way. You can join things like meetups for meetup.com, or group things that pop up on your Facebook, or join a rec center or whatever to meet people as well. Dating online is not the end all to dating. It really
Absolutely
isn't.
not. Absolutely.
Church groups, like I said, meetup, rec center, all those kind of things, you're going to run into people. And I know a lot of people like me get really frustrated with things like online dating because I just think it's a squirrel house full of nuts. Sorry, but yes. And I think that meetups, like joining groups that have interests things that you're interested in, like bike riding or a calligraphy class or hiking or anything like that, they have groups that cover all that stuff that you can go find like-minded people and catch up with people there and meet people that way as well. So dating online is not the end all. It's how Turner chose to go about this, but he did meet people other ways probably as well from time
Yes,
to time.
absolutely. And the woman I'm with now, we met at church.
See? So there's all kinds of ways of meeting people. Now that COVID is a little bit better out there, we can be out there a little bit safer meeting people. I know for the last several years that was just a really hardship. People like the beginning of COVID, my ex-boyfriend and we had broken up. I had thought I'm going to start dating again. This was before COVID started. And then I was like, yep, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to get online. I'm going to meet people. I'm going to go out there and start dating. And then COVID hit. Mother Nature was like, yeah, no, we're not having any of that. So hopefully now we can get on with our lives a little bit and start going out, meeting people, having a good time. If nothing else, meet with somebody in a very public place. Be safe doing this. Tell people where you're at, who you're going with. Send them pictures of your date. Be like, hey, I'm going out with this guy. His name is Bob Smith. I'm going to meet him up at the Green at 5 o'clock at this restaurant. And we don't plan on going anywhere else except for dinner. And let people know to check in with you and where you're going to be at. So be safe, have fun. Turner, any last words?
Great advice all around. This was a lot of fun. It's great to hear the other side, the other point of view, and just to just riff on it. But I hope it helps folks because again, it was such a scary thing for me to step out there and do this for many reasons. So I hope this has helped your listeners, and hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, shoot us a message. Let us know like what you want to hear. Turner's book is To Venus and Back, One Man's Quest to Rediscover Love. And life is short, guys. Go find your own love. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. That's
Turner,
the
thanks for
best
joining
advice
us
of all.
today.
Thank you so much, Marianne.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.